Hello, leader. Today is the third episode of a series of 5 designed specifically to help you get back to basics for leading the people who form your team. Here at Stacking Your Team, every day is a school day, and right now, as you tune into this series, think of it as going back to summer school. Get ready to learn, take notes, and then apply what you've learned directly into your business so that you can be an even more effective leader. Today's topic? Back to basics. How to host team meetings that don't suck. Now, most people dislike meetings, mainly because the meetings that they go to suck. Yeah, those meetings feel like a waste of time. They feel like an email would have been better, or the meeting is so rushed, so disorganized, that it's a complete drag to go to. Other times, meetings can be seen as an opportunity for someone to stand on their soapbox, instead of it being an interactive and informative or collaborative experience that uses the right amount of time to truly respect people's time and energy. Let's get you and your team out of the mode of dragging your butts to meetings and instead get you trotting on over to them because it feels right that you're being included in this meeting. And yes, I'm giving you permission to not attend all of the meetings that are being held in your business. You'll hear about some key meetings that need to be hosted and why those well-organized gatherings can really move your team forward towards high performance. And oh, by the way, this episode is an actual audio of a training, and it will give you a peek into what kind of trainings are available to you and your team when you join the Leadership Lab, in addition to live coaching sessions with me. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast. If you are a woman who owns a small business and you'd like to learn how to lead your team so they don't need you to hold their hand, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Shelley Warren. I've led winning teams in retail, innovative technical teams at a Fortune 50 corporation, and coached many remote teams to win at work. And in case you're wondering, no one escapes team troubles, including me. You already know that the people side of running your business can be tough. I'm here to help. So let's jump into today's episode with a little reminder that the team that got you here may not be the team that will get you there. Hello, and welcome back to another training session with me. In this session, we're going to talk about how to host a team meeting. Now, you probably have an opinion on team meetings, and so does your team. So today, we're going to go through some ways that you can improve team meetings, that you can ensure that you're actually having team meetings, and that they're not a waste of time. I like to say, let's have team meetings that don't suck. So let's have a chat about team meetings. So at the end of this training, here's what you're going to know. You're going to know how to host a team meeting. So we're going to walk through there and really have a look at hosting different types of team meetings. And we're also going to look at hosting team meetings that you do not have to be in attendance for. So in order to make that happen, we need to have some processes and tools in place to make those team meetings impactful, and that you are very confident that those team meetings are effective without you. So meetings are touch points. Yes, they are, which is a moment to connect with your team. So there's many different types of touch points. You can host one-to-ones. Absolutely. That's a touch point. Hosting a quarterly leadership team meeting, having conversations with people in the kitchenette, doing daily huddles. All of those are touch points. And so in this particular session, we're going to talk about team meetings specifically. So how and why do touch points build culture? Well, it's really an activity where you're bringing people together, and we're doing it with so many drum beats, with so much intention, that it really is just normal. It's normal for you in your workplace to host team meetings. Now, I know for some of you, you may be thinking, well, my team is pretty small. Do we really need to have these team meetings? Why can't I just have a meeting with her and a meeting with him and then another meeting with her? But I'll tell you what you're losing when you do those individual meetings is the team themselves doesn't get to feel like a team.
And team meetings is the easiest way for people to feel like they belong to something bigger than themselves. And that includes whether you have a brick and mortar where people are coming together to do those team meetings in a particular location where they get to see each other, or whether you have a remote team and you're coming together on some sort of digital platform to be able to do it. But it's very important. It really does help build your culture. So you want to make it normal for everyone on your team to feel seen and heard, and that they see each other and they hear each other and they get to know each other. We also want to create some real conversations, and it's hard to do that if it's a one-way conversation where it's just you having the conversation with the team member. When you bring in other people and you're hosting a team meeting, now there's a chance for collaboration. Now there's a chance for people to share their points of view. And now there's a chance to even have a totally different outcome because you've got people in the room that know more, have different experiences, and who are invested in it as well. And the last one is it's really great to not be the bottleneck, right? So team meetings can really uncork any kind of a bottleneck because you're bringing people together. They know when it's happening in advance because everything's on a drumbeat. They have an agenda. They know exactly why we're here. And it can really uncork bottlenecks because now there's this sense of collaboration where we're going to make decisions and we're going to make something happen. So having those team meetings can really keep momentum alive in everything that you're doing. So when we have team meetings, there's very different ways and drumbeats that you might want to consider setting up for your team meetings, but definitely there are times some businesses have a team meeting every single day. Some of them are doing them weekly and some of them are doing them monthly and quarterly. So what I'm here to help you do is to figure out which meetings can be daily. It's a daily huddle. Others could be a weekly team meeting on a drumbeat where there's a specific invitation sent for specific people to come for a specific purpose. There's an intention and an outcome implied. And then we have bigger team meetings and every month and quarterly where the whole team comes in. You might bring in an outside facilitator. You might have a particular group of clients come and join you. But let's get into the nitty-gritty as to the different meetings that are available to you and then when you would want to use each one of those meetings. Typically, we have a weekly one-to-one with someone who is either new to the business, has a performance issue, or plays a critical role in the business. So here's an example. A new person coming into the team, you would want to create a weekly one-to-one, either with you or with their lead trainer or with the person that's they're going to be responsible to ensure that the progress is happening in the right way in a timely manner, especially through that first 30 days and 60 days and then 90 days. So you'd want to consider at least potentially that first 30 days to have a weekly one-to-one with them. People who have performance outages, one of the quickest way to help turn that performance around is to have more check-ins, more touch points with them. You can definitely do that with a one-to-one. Sometimes I've even hosted close of business check-ins with people who have critical gaps in their performance. And I'm really trying to help them have a complete turnaround in a timely manner. I will have done those. And then other one-to-ones that you would want to have is so someone who, like, if you consider your executive assistant, that's someone who is incredibly critical to your role and to the care, comfort of your clients, your team, and yourself. So I would like to suggest that you consider having a weekly one-to-one with your assistant on a Monday and kick off the week. Set them up for success for the whole week. That would be an ideal one-to-one to have every week. Others are daily huddles. Now, I'm a fan of a daily huddle because just even the term huddle tells you that it's collaborative. All the right people are there. Everyone on the team is there. You're all playing for the same team and you're all playing in the same game on the same field. And then, of course, huddle tells me what I hear when I hear huddle is super efficient. So I like to have daily huddles where we're actually standing up because when you're standing up, it implies there's a sense of urgency and it creates this sense of effectiveness where you would have a set agenda. You're there to essentially talk about the most critical things that we need to know today, right now, to set the team up for success. So that could be looking at your staffing schedule. It could be looking at your appointment cancellations or reschedules. It could be looking at, needing to move forward on a critical milestone on a project, and you're doing like a day by day, week by week plan to ensure that the project stays on task. And so what you'd want to do, I do this with my project teams a lot. I would bring them in for a daily huddle and have everyone tell me, what's your priority today? What's your priority today? What's your priority today? And then it's who needs help, who needs help, who needs help, who can give help, who can give help, who can give help. And it just really helped people really know exactly what they need to go and do that day and know where they're going to be able to be successful. So that would be a daily huddle. We also have the weekly stand up or the weekly wrap up. And a weekly stand up or a wrap up is really the same thing, but it would happen at the end of the week. So if you're doing a 4-day work week, it would be on your Thursday. If you work 5 days a week, it would be on the Friday. Or if you have weekends, it would be on the Sunday. But what the whole intention of doing this weekly stand up or wrap up meeting is to really go over with using your red, green, and yellow, having a dashboard and going through and talking about what's on track, what's off track, what's the plan of action to get back on track. And the reason why we want to do this in week stages is so that we know that there's time to create a plan, like a recovery plan, to be able to start the next week off with a bang and in the right direction. So love a weekly wrap-up meeting. We also have quarterly one-to-ones and quarterly 2-to-1s. And for some of you, you may not be familiar with a 2-to-1, but really a 2-to-1 is where you and your team leader, who is responsible to others, would host a quarterly meeting. So there'd be you, there'd be a team leader, and there'd be one individual on your team. And the 3 of you would come together in support of that team member. So that is a 2-to-1. And you would plan those out every quarter. And then you would have quarterly 1-to-1s with everyone on your team as well, especially your leadership team members. And then you're going to host your own leadership team meeting, and you can choose the drumbeat as to what that would be. But I would highly recommend that you have at least a monthly leadership team meeting where you're bringing in everyone that plays a leadership role in the business. You're going to bring them in where you would collaborate and talk about results, goals, on track, off track, performance issues, look at drumbeats, what's coming down the pike, what do we need to get ready for? How do we take what we've learned this month and set next month up for success? So it's really about leveraging everyone's experiences and everyone's point of view as it pertains to their leadership role, and then coming in together to really compound the effort. So how do we use meetings to move the business forward? Well, it's all about consistency, right? We want to make sure that everything that we do is consistent, predictable, streamlined, calming. Even when there's a crisis, they know what to expect. They know what the process is to help ease the crisis or ease the constraint. So how do we make this easy? Well, we stick to a framework. And I think you probably all had work experiences where you would go to this meeting and this meeting and this meeting, and you knew what your favorite meetings were. And typically the favorite meetings were the ones that did not waste your time, felt very effective, had an agenda, and there was different people leading different components of the agenda. But it felt like you could make something happen in the team meeting. Those are always the best meetings to have. And the meetings that you went to that you just dreaded going to, you couldn't wait to get out of there. Or those meetings where, everyone's doing all kinds of other things rather than paying attention to what's going on. Those are signs that your team meetings suck and that we need to incorporate some framework into it so that even if you're not leading it, and that's the goal, right, is to get you out of meetings, right? We want to have you not be attending as many meetings as you are right now. And so in order to get you there, we need to incorporate some frameworks into your processes so that other people can lead those meetings other than you and do a great job of it. So here's the framework, right? We're absolutely going to have a drumbeat for every kind of meeting that you have, whether it's a monthly leadership team meeting that you're having or it's quarterly 2-to-1s. You're going to have a drumbeat set up for it. And it's going to be on your business annual calendar that's very transparent, that everyone can go and see when are these meetings happening? When are they? Where are they? And who needs to be there? Because everyone's time is of value. You've probably been invited to meetings, got there and thought, what am I doing here? This has nothing to do with me. I have nothing to add. This is a total time suck for me. I can be doing so many other things. Well, guess what? Your team members have felt that way too. The next one is you want to have a standard location. And the reason why we do that is because over time, you're going to learn what works best for this kind of meeting. So, are you going to have a team meeting in a particular room that has a whiteboard and flip chart so that you can easily just get up and start, pull your whiteboard over and start doing some interactive stuff? Are you going to do it in a Zoom situation where you have set up breakout rooms so that part of the meeting is how to easily slide people over into smaller groups so they can work on a problem and then come back in? It's all those kind of things we need to think about as part of the framework for each particular meeting. One-to-ones that you're going to have offer a lot more flexibility because you could decide that part of your leadership style when you host one-to-ones is to do them outside or do them at a local co-working place that has a really great coffee shop inside and, nice ambiance music playing, and you're wanting to host those one-to-ones in that kind of an environment so that it sparks creativity and it feels very different from what you would normally do during the day. So it's up to you to really offer some suggestions for doing that and then stick to it. It becomes part of the framework for that particular meeting. And then, of course, the other one is invite only, right? Like we don't want people crashing meetings. And at the same time, we don't want people there that really can't add value because you're just demonstrating that you don't value their time, right? We want to value everyone's time. And one of the things I like to do with my clients is when you're thinking about building up these meetings, put together like the actual cost of the meeting. So if you have every one of your team members at that meeting for a half an hour, do the math and find out how much money is this costing? If a client was to secure or hire my team for a half an hour to be in their place of business to help them solve a problem or collaborate on something, how much would I be charging them for that? We need to think like that as well. So for most people, once they see that number, it can be a real driver to help get real efficient with your meetings. And that's one of those numbers that is great to share with your team members too. It can be very disruptive in a positive way for them to stop and think about, yeah, jeepers, like it's like over, sometimes it can be like $5,000 to have people in a meeting for an hour. It can be even more than that, right? So let's have a look at that. Other framework, we want to look at the process. So every single meeting that you have, there needs to be an intention for having it. Why are we having it? And then what are the intended outcomes? Because if we're going to a meeting or a meeting's on your calendar or it's on a drumbeat for the annual calendar, if we don't know why we're doing it and what we're supposed to make happen in the meeting, you're going to have a hard time getting people to rally around, even going to it, right? They're going to arrive already with an attitude problem. So let's make sure we're setting the intention, we've got some outcomes, and that those are repeatable. You want a standard agenda. And the reason why you want a standard agenda is so that everyone gets equal playing time, equal floor time. No one's monopolizing different time slots in the meeting, and that people know what's coming up next. Okay, we just went through this. This is the next thing. It becomes this dance. They know the steps. They know the rhythm of it. That's going to happen in every type of meeting that you have. And then style of meetings. So most people that enjoy going to your team meetings enjoy going to them because there's a style to it and they know what to expect. So, and it's always fun to be able to introduce new ways of engaging people in your meetings, introducing games, introducing activities, introducing interactive movement, deciding that, like your last Friday wrap-up meeting of the month is always going to take place outside. Just deciding things like that can really change things up. And then the other thing that can really help lessen that burden of carrying the weight of all these meetings is to literally delegate ownership of meetings to different people. You don't have to lead every meeting. And I want to get you to a place where you're not even in all these meetings. So one of the ways we can do that is to delegate a facilitator for each of these meetings. If they're going to host the meeting, keep the agenda on track, delegate someone else that's going to be a scribe, and then someone else is going to watch the time. So by splitting up those roles within all your meetings, what you're doing is you're creating an opportunity where everyone can play a different role on the team. You can switch these up as well and get them on a drum beat and switch them up. But then the other thing it does is you're giving your team an opportunity to witness someone else's leadership style. If the only person they ever see leading a meeting, leading a discussion, working through a conflict, having people come to a deep decision and do some problem solving, if they only ever see you doing that, they only ever learn that style. But you have great people on your team who have different personalities, and they're going to have a different way of getting to the same outcome that you would have. So let's give them the opportunity to share the ownership of that. So we want an agenda that's standard, but we also want to make sure that baked into that agenda and baked into the conversations that are going to happen at team meetings is a discussion about KPIs. Because if you're only ever talking about your key performance indicators with your leadership team, the extended team or the other people on your team are not being educated on what's important. So we need to make sure those KPIs are talked about in the team meeting, because guess what? They're going to be on their 5-hour work plans. So let's make sure that they're not just hidden on a 5-hour work plan, tucked in somebody's drawer, that's not meaningful for them. We bring 5-hour work plans to life by talking about the different aspects of the 5-hour work plan. And one of the places that we talk about them is right here in the team meeting. So let's get a dashboard going. It doesn't have to be anything fantabulous. It could be a whiteboard. It could be flip charts. It could be a PowerPoint slide. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. But let's get some sort of visual tracker going so that people can start to see where are we red, where are we yellow, and where are we green? And then what's the plan to move out of that or move forward with it? You're also going to have priorities, right? So we want to make sure that every meeting that you host, that you remind people at the beginning of it, why are we here? We've gathered here today to make sure that we set everyone up on the team up for success for the day. We're gathered here today to recap the results this week and put a plan of action into play for next week. Right? You want to remind people why they're there. And then, of course, we want to be able to provide resources. So if you're hosting a team meeting, any kind of a meeting, and you are starting to anticipate some of the questions, the queries, the concerns that are going to come up through the various conversation points that you have, you want to do some homework and bring some resources with you so that you can help just like end gossip, end speculation, put a cap on worry by saying to them, here's the situation that we're in, and I've put together some resources for you. Or in the drive, in this folder, you'll find some background, some history on this. And as well, you also want to be able to defer to the experts that you have in the room. So you can always lean over and say, Stephanie, this is really your realm of expertise. Could you answer that question for John? And what that does is it creates this level of respect for each other, because once again, you're not the one doing all the talking. You're sharing that out with everyone, and everyone starts to play a role in it. Some more framework. We want to make sure that your agenda you're kicking off the meeting. And this is particularly important if you're doing the most important meeting of the year. I did a whole podcast on this and why it should be done in January, where you're really coming in and sharing your strategic plan for the year and getting everyone rallied and around the work, and then getting everyone to understand, hey, we're doing this and here's the role I'm going to play in that. We want to use agendas to really kick things off in a big way so that it's memorable. And then we just repurpose those agendas over and over again. And the agenda helps guide the experience, right? We've all been in meetings where you're just like, there might have been someone that was leading the meeting, but oh my gosh, they're all over the place. And someone raises their hand, and then now the focus is on this particular person getting their needs met. And then someone else wants, the stage over here. And so they're monopolizing the whole meeting over here to get their thing looked at. And then it can just feel like a mishmash, and people leave going, what just happened in there? So we want to make sure that the agenda and the facilitator that owns the agenda is guiding everyone's experience of that meeting. Other things you can do with your agenda is to use your agenda to do wrap-ups, right? I love a good wrap-up. You'll hear me say, who's got the R for that? And it's because I'm wanting people in any kind of meeting to take notes, especially if there's not a scribe. Ideally, we want one person to be taking the notes, putting it all together in a framework and a format, and then it goes in with the proper configuration of the file into a particular folder where everyone can get at it quickly. And then that scribe, those notes, that Excel spreadsheet, that action plan has the item, who owns it, the expected date that it's going to be delivered, what is required for help. All of that needs to be on it as well, because then the next time they come into the meeting, they're going to share that. Here's the progress. Hey, John, where are we at this? Jennifer, where are we at on this? That's what makes meetings feel like they're really productive and things are moving along. So use your agenda to do those wrap-ups at the end of the meeting, where we can say, okay, we've got a few minutes here. Let's give everybody a chance to ask for 2-minute items, and just round robin it. Everyone gets a chance to share their 2-minute item. And it could be something as, hey, I'm going on vacation next week. Just wanted to remind everybody, I'll be off the grid. Susan is my backup. Jennifer is the backup to the backup to the backup. Looking forward to seeing you when I return. Right? We want to use those 2-minute items to be able to just share quick little important pieces of information. It could be someone saying, hey, I've got a problem with this particular aspect of my project. Is there someone that you could refer me to? Is there outside counsel? Is there a vendor that we've used in the past that we were delighted with that I'm just not aware of yet? Can you help me solve my problem that I have right now? And just make the ask. So those wrap-ups and then reinforcing what the next step in the action plan is can really help your meetings become efficient. And then the other one that I like to do in meetings is surprise people with a pop quiz. And I like to have like dollar store prizes. And it's a great way to reinforce your policies. It's a great way to reinforce your quality and compliance, to literally have a pop quiz where it's like maybe 3 questions. It's on a piece of paper in front of you. They turn the paper over. You've got a stopwatch. They've got 2 minutes to answer it. Ring the bell. Raise your hand when you're done. Let's go through, who had the first question right. Cheers all around. It's just a way to add some fun and a teaching moment into your team meetings. And I love the surprise factor where people don't always know that it's happening. It's just a great way to inject some fun into your team meetings. And then the other one is to literally put an item on your agenda where people get to share a win. And it's always interesting to hear what people consider wins. You'll also get some training here with me on my easy peasy tool. It's a fan favorite in the Leadership Lab. It's called the Win, the Challenge, and the Question. More specific training on that particular tool and how to use it. But I want to encourage you, when you have meetings, to make sure that you've factored in a bit of time on your agenda to give everyone a chance to share a win. All right. So how do you know that your team meetings don't suck? Here's how. If your team member feels welcome to be there, like they belong, that they're not sitting in a room and going, am I in the wrong place? Oh my gosh, am I supposed to be here? You want them to know that they're welcome to be there. You want them to feel cared for. And feeling cared for can come down to everything from the time that you create the drumbeat for to host the meeting. It can also come down to the lighting in the room, the temperature of the room. Do we have all the data that we need? Do we have all the tools that we need to make sure this is an effective meeting? Do we have the right people here? All of those things can help people feel cared for, including, do I have an agenda? Do we have a facilitator? Is someone taking notes? All those things. If the team member feels excited to go to the team meetings, that's a sure sign your team meetings don't suck. And if you get started doing the work, right? You're set to get started doing the work. So people come to the meeting knowing they know why they're there. They know what they're supposed to do, and they're excited about getting something done in the meeting. That's how you know, guess what? My team meetings don't suck. And then the last one is, being clear on whether they're meeting or exceeding expectations. So we really want to make sure that when you're hosting one-to-ones and two-to-ones, including daily huddles or team meetings, you want to be able to share that feedback that you're reinforcing with your team members that they are doing the right thing and that you're thrilled about their next best steps that they've just shared with you. You want to acknowledge the results that they are currently getting. And you want to encourage them that you have every confidence in their ability to go and take their next best move and move the action plan forward. So it's a touch point, right? It's a way to build trust, different from being in a one-to-one, because you're specifically doing them in a meeting session where there's more than one person there. But it's really all about making sure that team member feels seen, heard, understood, and cared for. So set your team up for success. Other ways to ensure that your meetings don't suck is when your team member feels that spending time with you or time with their peers is not a waste of time, that something is actually getting done, and that their point of view matters, and that they're actually going to have a chance to share their point of view versus going to a meeting and it's always the same people that talk. And even if someone's raising their hand, they're being overlooked. So they just drop the hand and they stop raising their hand. And then they'll actually start tuning out, whether they're on the phone the whole time, or they're on their laptop, or they're pretending to listen when they're not. Other things you want to be able to provide your team is that predictability with your drum beats. And they know, because you have an agenda and it's a drum beat and the intention's clear and the outcomes are clear and the right people are there and it doesn't feel like a waste of time. They know, oh my gosh, this meeting's coming up. They know exactly what to do to prepare to go there so that they can engage, so that they can add value. And that's what's helping them feel like it wasn't a waste of time to go to these meetings. So you're going to teach ownership and preparation for every one of your meetings, whether you're doing it in a daily huddle. And here we have some resources available to you. Here is an agenda that you could adopt, adjust, tweak for your business. But here's some of the things that would be on your agenda to be able to do a huddle. You can see the standard topics of what we're going to go through and who owns what, who's your note taker, who's your facilitator, all that kind of thing. Here, a weekly team meeting. Here's what an agenda for a weekly team meeting could look like. And also I'm giving you some suggestions here as to what that agenda could be, and then the flow of it and who would own certain aspects of the meeting. And then your monthly team meeting, same thing. So a little bit different, right? Because we're looking at the month and we're looking to take the data and the experiences that we just had this month and turning them into a teachable moment to be able to either accelerate the results the next month or course correct anything that's off track. So there's some ideas for you there. These are all in your resources as well, right? We want to keep things on track for sure. So here's a few simple phrases, just some suggestions to help you and your leadership team members and your facilitators use language that can really help with the engagement of everyone that's in your team meeting. So who's got the R for that? Meaning who has the responsibility for that? You want to hear someone raise their hand. You want to hear someone's names mentioned out loud, and you want to see that tracked on the action plan. Who will close the loop on this? So sometimes we get into meetings and we haven't quite come to a final decision. So instead of just going around and around and around, or having that particular problem, get deferred to the next team meeting, we want to suggest who's going to close the loop on that. And that could be having a separate meeting with those particular individuals to go make it happen, go solve it. But just leaving it dead and unsolved in the team meeting is not effective either. So you would ask, who's going to close the loop on that? Let me add that to our leadership team meetings next agenda, right? So sometimes in a team meeting, people will bring things up, and this particular meeting is not the appropriate time to work on it or dive into it at a deeper level. So you or the facilitator can say, oh my gosh, that's a great point. Let me add that to our next leadership team meeting. And now that team member knows, okay, she heard me. She's going to follow up. It's going to go onto the right agenda, and it's going to be looked after in that particular meeting, instead of just going and then just letting it fall down. What are your blind spots today? So this is a good question to ask in a one-to-one, and specifically, I like to ask this question in a daily huddle, because those daily huddles are really about taking immediate planning action to set the team up for that particular day. So by asking people, like, what's your blind spot for today? So like, after I've just gone through all of this, you're aware of what our current compelling needs are for this particular day. What alarm bells are going off for you? What are you starting to see? Okay, if this is a priority and this has been canceled and this person's coming in, like, how is that going to affect you? And what do you need to do to follow up? You're wanting to give people a few moments to think about, now that I have this information, how can I make a more informed decision? And incorporated in that is what could go wrong. So that's what you're wanting them to hear. You're wanting to hear some blind spots from them. My other favorite question that I'm probably asked this to a fault too much is, what looks like help to you today? And that's really my way of saying, I'm here for you. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to help you today. It might not be me that ends up looking like help to you today, but I can find someone who can look like help to you. I can facilitate that for you. But just by simply asking what looks like help to you today helps build trust with people. And I'll add that to tomorrow's agenda so you can share it on an update. Absolutely. This is one of my favorite things to do, especially as someone who was very hot on a topic. It was the passion moment for them. Or it was a problem that it was critical. I would say to them, I'm going to add this to tomorrow's agenda. I can't wait to hear what you have for an update for us. And what that is really telling people is, okay, this is now my number one priority today. I need to go out and fix this, come to a conclusion, and come into tomorrow's meeting with a full update on what's happening here. And then the other simple phrase is time check. Like, sometimes we get so much happening in the room, and people are really engaged and they're loving the conversation, and people are raising their hands and sharing their points of view, and, action plans are being documented and things are really rolling. But then you've got this agenda. You've got to get through these other parts of the agenda. So that's where, hopefully it's your timekeeper that comes out and says, okay, time check. We've got 10 minutes left of this meeting. Let's all decide on what the next two things that we're going to talk about to make sure that we hit our priorities today. It's just a simple way of reminding people that you've allocated a specific time slot for this meeting and that you respect everyone's time and energy. It just helps bring the people back into the room to get back on track again. So what will be your next steps for your hosting team meetings? They are one of the most critical things that any leader can do. And I also want to remind you that for those of you who hate meetings, for those of you whose goal in life is to not ever host a meeting, I'm here to tell you that that's an unreasonable thought to have. Part of your role as a leader is to bring people together to help solve problems and foster an atmosphere of collaboration. And those are meetings. That's a meeting. Meetings is how we make stuff happen in business. So thinking that you're never going to host a meeting or that you're going to get out of it ever attending a meeting is foolhardy. Yes, I'm going to help you get out of the meetings that you really don't need to be there and help you really come and put together a calendar of meetings that you can truly add value when you attend those meetings. That's what we're going to get you focused on. So we're going to help you build up other people on the team that are really going to come through and be able to lead those meetings without you in a really great way. But you are going to have to go to some meetings. It's part of what you get paid to do. I look forward to seeing you in our next training session. Take care.
Do you feel the difference between what your meetings look and feel like today versus what your meetings could be like tomorrow when you introduce a structure and a design for those key meetings that can really help your team move forward towards high performance? Yeah, it's doable. And the best thing about meetings is that you don't have to own and lead each one. Your team can show off their expertise, their interests, and their capabilities by being the leader who comes prepared to host meetings and demonstrate their ability to step up into leadership. Joining the Leadership Lab could be your very best next step to finally knowing how to lead, so your team turnover settles down. People know exactly what they're being paid to do, and the results you've been wanting your team to deliver actually happens. I've got the tools, frameworks, and coaching experience to help you to stop being disappointed in your team and instead start feeling great about who you hire, who you promote, and who you hand over the reins of your business to, because they're truly capable and happy to commit to bringing your vision alive for your clients and customers. Leadership can be exciting, challenging, and lonely at times, so don't go it alone. Let me help you create the team and the leadership structure that you've been craving. So until next time, remember, if you have a dream, you need a team. So let's get stacking yours today.